My name is Caleb Chambers, and today I'll be presenting my model of how I view communication. In my model, I started with a very unusual step called content. It is called content because it is an idea or a purpose that triggers a conversation. For example, say you're walking down the street and accidentally bump into someone and you say, "Excuse me." That would be the action of bumping into someone would be content. And the next step in my process is called the speaker. The speaker is my next step because it serves as a medium that sends out the content into the listener. The speaker is the person who normally initiates the conversation, and they can either be the person that created the idea to discuss or someone that reacts to the content. And he can do that between one of two ways. The first way is verbal communication, which most people are familiar with. The speaker can deliver that message in normal conversation between two or more parties. The next step would be nonverbal communication, which is not normally recognized by most people in this discussion. However, nonverbal communication is just as important as verbal communication. And nonverbal communication includes body motion, gestures, which help determine a person's mood and how they react to certain circumstances. And my job as a law enforcement officer, nonverbal communication is very key. It helps someone determine someone's mood. Someone could be speaking as if they were in a good mood. However, their body gestures and movement could determine otherwise, and therefore posing a threat to safety to myself and others. The next step in my process is the listener. The listener is another very important step because they are the one receiving the message intentionally sent by the speaker. The listener may also analyze what the speaker has to say in order to set the next step in motion of the diagram, which is also very important. And the speaker and listener can sometimes interchange roles based on which step of the process they're in. But however, the next step is feedback. Feedback is sent from the initial listener to the initial speaker. Ultimately, they are reversing their roles at this point, as listed on the diagram in parentheses. After the conversation is initiated, the speaker and the listener can carry on a conversation based off feedback from one another. However, during all this, there can be some difficulties, such as personal interference, which I've also listed on the diagram. And it can occur in both parties. Personal interference includes parties that are biased, that may include racism, sexism, or prejudice. This presents personal interference can cause a conversation to go the wrong way or be misinterpreted the way it was initially intended to be. And the last step of my communication model is interference. Interference can be anything from the outside world, noise, dogs barking, anything that can interrupt communication, specifically from the speaker being received by the listener. And that concludes my presentation on my communication model. Thank you.